and it goes down smooth.
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical, Russ Belville.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Toker Talk Radio, Hour 2. Hey, we're going to take calls a little bit later, second half hour. I knew some calls were coming in there, but got to wrap some other stuff up and maybe address some of the stuff in the chat room as well. Because, yeah, I'm starting to get a little radicalized on this issue. It started back during Prop 19 when medical marijuana dispensaries were using prohibition profits to maintain my criminality. And it continued in I-502 in 2012 when, again, medical marijuana dispensaries were using prohibition profits to maintain my criminality. So, yeah, I've gotten a little strident, gotten a little angry here. And I want to just, let me take some of the things here that were in the chat room as far as this goes. Rather have doctors, Dartho says, I'd rather have doctors making the determination of who's really, really sick than pot-phobic legislators. Yeah, I get that point. And that's the point of having condition lists, right? Like who's sick enough that really deserves it, right? Here's the problem. By having medical marijuana, you turn a doctor into a gatekeeper for the people who want to get it recreationally. Now, it's not a problem for somebody who's really got cancer or AIDS or MS or Crohn's or whatever other amazingly awful disease there is. That's not going to be an issue for them. But there's then the doc, you know, you got the doctor in the position to reject the person who's coming in for the marijuana. Now, on one level, marijuana is so non-toxic and so relatively harmless that there's no real good medical reason to reject it for most people. You know, maybe if they've got an addiction problem with it or their, you know, mental health in their past, illness in their past, but, or maybe lung damage or something from smoking it maybe, but there's not a whole lot of reasons to reject anyone. So someone who does come in wanting recreational and wanting to get that little card so they can get their, you know, tax rebate from 25, well, it's going to be hard for a doctor to reject that. And this is what we've seen, you know, that when the medical marijuana laws were proposed, you know, California started any other condition a doctor approves. And we saw what happened with that. There's now dock in the boxes and there's now tents on Venice Beach. There's places you can go where for $40 they have this big board. And on this board is a 2-column board of all these conditions, you know, irritable bowel, restless legs, anxiety, depression, whatever. And basically you go into the doctor and that's what I've got. It's really just a cheat sheet so that you can give the proper call and response to get your little doctor permission slip to get high. Now, it's from that it got stricter in the next states, Oregon and Washington. They said, well, no, this is why we need to have a condition list, because if we don't, then the free market decides, and you're always going to find some doctor who graduated at the bottom of his class, who's had some problems in his clinical work where hospitals won't hire him anymore. Some guy who's down on his luck and, well, I got this medical degree and under the technicality of the law here, I can write up a little permission slip for people at $40 a head or $50 a head, or here in Oregon, some are getting $75 a head for this. See, I'm not fooled by this stuff anymore. I've been behind the scenes building medical marijuana clinics. I know how it works. I know what they'll approve. You know what's going on in a lot of these medical marijuana clinics, folks? What's going on is you take in your medical records. They're not reviewed by a doctor or a nurse or even someone with any amount of medical training or licensure. They're being reviewed by a minimum wage employee who's been told to look for certain words on charts. If they see, pain, recurring pain, aha, check, there's something that will just qualify under the law that will just get this person, free and clear. These minimum wage employees review these records to find out which ones have the keywords that'll work. And then that folder is put on the desk of a doctor who's seeing people one every 15 minutes, who looks at that folder, sees that indeed the minimum wage employee has checked off the proper keywords that are in this folder, brings the person in and has a cursory, hey, how you doing? Have you used cannabis? What do you use it for? How does it help you? Here's your recommendation. I've been there. I've seen it done. And I also know that a lot of these clinics don't even bother with that level of checking when it comes to these medical records. If someone happens to be a touring musician that needs a card, or someone happens to be a celebrity in town who needs a card, why, they just happen to have a condition that qualifies. So don't tell me, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining and pretend that, 95% or some huge percentage are really actually legitimate patients that without 15 plants and without 24 ounces, they'll die. Sorry, not buying it anymore. And I'm the reason I'm mad about this, and the reason I'm bringing that, I can imagine a lot of people going, dude, what's your fucking problem, man? You're going to ruin it for people. No, I think by continuing to bullshit the public, that's what's going to ruin it for people. That's what's going to get that's why the Washington board right now is trying to take away a lot of this stuff, is because they too see the abuse that's going on. And they aren't dumb. They realize that if there's 221 untaxed, unregulated, unlicensed medical marijuana dispensaries in Seattle and 21 highly taxed pot shops, there's going to be a whole lot of sick people in Seattle.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting. I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. That's music from Emily. Get High here on 420 Radio. Toker Talk Radio is on the air. And we're going to take calls in the second half hour because if I start taking calls now, I won't get through some of the stuff that needs to be gotten through. So I'd better do that. I must sound like the Grinch these days when it comes to medical marijuana. And it's such a shame, too, because the patients I know and work with are some of the most seriously ill patients that do need the 24 ounces and 15 plants. I mean, Lindsay Reinhardt's multiple sclerosis, man. She's got to have that much, But I also know there's a lot of people out there who are both medical and recreational users. I'll give the example of my ex-wife. She had endometriosis, the female reproductive pain issue, right? And it was terrible. It was awful. She would get some of the worst cramps. I mean, beyond period cramps, just awful, awful cramps. And she also was a migraine sufferer. She would get migraines, and she was allergic to most opioid medications, right? So, we'd have to, take her into the emergency room, when she got one of these serious migraines. We did it 7 times, like in the first year or 2 we were married. And we discovered that when she smoked pot, it was the best treatment for her migraines there was. But guess what? She didn't have endometriosis every day, and she didn't have migraines every day. But we smoke pot every day, multiple times every day. Now, I suppose somebody will make the argument, yeah, and that's what was keeping them all away. But yeah, a little slippery argument there. For another example, I'm a caregiver in the state of Oregon. There's a lot of states that have these caregiver laws or a caregiver card where you can be a caregiver for someone, right? Because I have my caregiver card, I can't be prosecuted for the possession of 1.5 pounds or 6 mature plants. And 6 mature plants, I should say. I can't be prosecuted for it. But of course, I'm not supposed to be smoking the marijuana. And yet, you all know I do. I've been here using marijuana scot-free in the state of Oregon, thanks to the medical marijuana law, for 9 years now. And there are, up to 50,000 more people just like me. I don't think there's that many caregivers. It's probably lower, probably half of that. Let's say 25,000. So at least 25,000 of us that are free-ride stoners, have not a medical condition. Maybe we do. I've got, insomnia, whatever. But we're not qualifying under the law, right? And we're free to toke. Nobody can bug us. And it's not like the patients groups do anything to make sure that only the patients are toking. Every event I go to where they check your medical marijuana card. They check at these lounges and cafes and hemp fests and, award shows and stuff. They check your medical marijuana card, sure. But they just check to see if you have a card so that they're covered legally when you're in there so that possession can't be an issue. It's not as if, and this would be easy to do, wouldn't it? It's not as if they're issuing yellow wristbands for just the patients so we can make sure that only people with yellow wristbands are smoking marijuana. No, of course not. It's a smoke for all. And because the people I know in the medical world support legalization as well, most of them, I think all of them, and don't think that a healthy person shouldn't be able to smoke pot. And it's not like I'm against it. Obviously, I'm doing it. I'm taking advantage of it, obviously. It's cool by all of us. But really, take a look at this from the outside perspective of someone who's either neutral or doesn't like pot. And you can see why they think it's bullshit. And that's a shame. Because then the people that are the cancer patients and really need that much marijuana suffer from what we're doing, taking advantage of this. And you can't blame us for taking advantage of this because Who wants to go to jail? Who wants to get arrested? Who would not take advantage of an easy way to stay out of jail for doing something you don't think is a crime in the first place? But this is what's untenable about this medical marijuana argument, and gets more and more untenable as legalization unfolds. This is the issue, is that if there is going to be adult access to marijuana, recreationally speaking, why does there need to be greater access for patients? Now, you can make the case, and Steph Shearer makes the case ably, that there are plenty of patients who need greater access. But then the question becomes, well, how come 24 ounces for a patient isn't dangerous, but 24 ounces for a healthy person is? Now it's time to start flipping that around, because there is just something inherent about giving a greater access to a patient than you give to a recreational consumer that inherently demeans the recreational user, that inherently supposes that somehow the healthy person with more weed is a problem compared to the sick person with more weed. And I'm just getting to the point now where I don't think that is going to be a necessary argument anymore. Either marijuana is safer than alcohol, or it's not. Either marijuana is incapable of causing a fatal overdose, or it's not. Either marijuana is generally harmless to society and in some ways good for society, or it is not. It doesn't matter why you're smoking the marijuana. But we've gotten to this point now where medical marijuana patients have carved out for themselves this exclusive niche of extreme, not prejudice, what's the word? Preference, extreme preference. 15 mature plants is the most mature plants you can grow statewide in a medical marijuana program in this country. California will let you grow more in certain counties, but statewide, 15 mature plants is the most you get. 24 ounces of possession is the most you get anywhere else in the country. And again, I will say there are some patients that need that. But how is it that the medical marijuana patients in the other 20 or 18, 19 other states are getting by with possession limits of 3 ounces and 2 ounces? It's not enough for them, or it is enough for them, or is it enough for most of them? How many of these patients really are going through 1.5 pounds of weed? Just give me some stats on it, because I'm just getting tired of the argument that's always, and it's always the sucker argument, and it's always the pull on your heartstrings argument of wheeling out the sickest, frailest person and saying, well, the law has to match what that person needs. Well, if it does, then why can't I have that much? Why can't everybody have that much? I'm just losing it over this. I'm just getting very, very tired of this exclusivity, of this entitlement syndrome that we find from people who have been benefiting from the rest of us for so many years, supporting their initiatives, supporting their exclusive right, their special right that none of the rest of us get because it's politically expedient. But now that the time comes that it's politically possible to get our rights, they want to deny and obstruct us getting our equal rights with them. It's just frustrating as all hell. Just frustrating. Anyway, also, before we go to break, I wanted to mention that there was a great editorial in the Oregonian today, for the third time has mentioned New Approach Oregon. In fact, their quote said, and basically they're making a lot of the argument that I'm making here, is that in Oregon, the case is setting the rules for our dispensary language that just passed. And they point out that we tried to pass dispensaries by initiatives twice, in 2004 and 2010, and they were defeated soundly. But in 2013, they passed a dispensary proposal, and nobody even shrugged a shoulder or raised an eyebrow at it. And the Oregonians making the case that we're beyond medical now. We're beyond medical. Trying to develop rules for medical marijuana dispensaries now is like trying to set up the marketing tactics for compact discs in the iPod world. That's their own analogy there. And they're saying, let's just get on with legalizing. And I would hope so, man. I would hope that what comes out from legalization in Oregon, that our pot shops largely match what's going on with the HB 3460 dispensaries, and that we get some fairly high limits passed with New Approach Oregon with, 8 ounces and 4 plants. But it's interesting to have them call this the sober legalization proposal. That's their actual line there. The sober legalization proposal. Also points out a police chief down there in Jackson County that points out that Jackson County has more medical marijuana card holders than any county except Multnomah. Now, to give you an idea, that's a rural county, Jackson County, where they grow a lot of weed, versus Multnomah County, the most populous county that holds Portland. They've got 28 residents per medical marijuana card, compared to 75 per card in Multnomah. I guess people are just much sicker in Southern Oregon.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com and follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up!
Don't let him down, Fox.
Ooh, yeah.
No.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Just like that, baby. Don't stop. I like it. You like it, baby? Yeah.
No, sugar won't do it.
Feels good, right?
Big Daddy thinks.
Funky roller ring.
Don't let him down.
Welcome back, everyone. 23 after the hour here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful Potland, Oregon, where it's time for Toker Talk Radio. You can toke, you can talk, you can toke and talk, or talk while we talk about toke. That's what we do here at Toker Talk Radio. All right, I got to weigh in on another issue. Oh, my God. If you follow the Facebook or you read the seedier sides of the marijuana internet, you may be aware of a scandal brew with Moms for Marijuana. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go there. All right, so here's the deal. Here's what I got to say about all of this. First of all, if you don't know, what's going on here is Sarah Frank, who's the founding director of Moms for Marijuana, was accused by members of the board of not filing the nonprofit and of basically embezzling money. And so, in response to these allegations that they have absolute proof of, they all resigned en masse. And look, I am a believer. First of all, just for full disclosure, Sarah Frank's a friend of mine, lived at my place for 2-3 months. Okay. And a lot of these board members I hold in high esteem. I've met a few of them and totally respect them too. I'm not taking sides on this, but I tend to subscribe to Edward Tufte's observation that you should be reluctant to attribute to malice and conspiracy that which is easier explained by incompetence and muddling through. Okay. So yeah, there might be some shenanigans here. There might not be. I don't know. They say they've got proof of all this stuff, but to me, if you got proof of this stuff, you confront the leader with it, and if you don't get a satisfactory answer, you take it to court or you use the board to vote the leader out. But you do this stuff behind the scenes, you keep a lid on it and take care of business so as not to explode a huge melodrama all over the internets and destroy everyone's credibility in the meantime. And again, I don't know if there's proof or not. I don't know. The story I'm told is that there is records of financials, but they're buried in boxes from having moved around the country so many times. And yeah, maybe, I don't know. The nonprofit certainly wasn't filed, but it's just been recently filed. And that leads to the extra part of the melodrama where another friend of mine, full disclosure, Cheryl Schumann, has gotten herself voted on as the PR director for Moms for Marijuana and on this new board with Sarah. And there's more stuff going on there. And of course, this was picked up by, the underbelly of, internet reporters who, I don't know what the point is of reporting all of this other than to scandal monger and get page hits. I don't see how it helps us legalize marijuana any. And again, I don't like these character assassinations and trials in public, for stuff that, like I said, if there's proof of this stuff, then by God, take it to court, take it to a mediator, take it to a board, right? Don't do all this back chatter, gossipy crap that turns people off from wanting to be in marijuana activism. That's my main concern. I get that from a lot of people, actually. People get burned out. Oh, I love I love, want to fight for legalization, but the drama, all the drama and the backbiting and the gossip and all. Let's just knock that shit off. We got enough enemies on the other side. And, let's, and again, the people who've been involved with this, most of them have been pretty above board and kept the conversations private, not blasted all over Facebook. But then once you start talking to some of the underbelly of the internet, reporters, that's just their bread and butter. And they just, they want to smear those feces as far and wide as possible. So I just wish it wasn't happening. I love the organization Moms for Marijuana. I love the members of the former board members who quit and are now forming various other organizations. But man, this should have been handled in-house. It should have been handled more professionally, in my opinion. All right, I'm going to take a break so that when we come back, if you've got a call, we'll get the call-in number up there, 971-533-7111. We'll take calls when we come back from break on any of the topics we've been discussing. And by the way, don't be afraid to call. I'm not a belligerent host. I know my rants come off belligerent, but I'll listen to opposing points of view as long as you're polite and got a point. I don't shout over people. This ain't Fox News. This ain't Rush Limbaugh Show. This is Toker Talk Radio.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your rise up to the skies. What is it to live and die? Calculated stars and I'm a reefer smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast,
including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
Kom allemaal naar de Cannabis Cup van 24 tot en met 28 november in Amsterdam in de Van Genthallen bij Amsterdam Roest. Verwacht alle coffeeshophouders uit Amsterdam die hun beste nieuwste producten laten zien. En hun wiet en hash wordt gekeurd door een panel aan deskundige wiet-experts die een uitreiking gaan doen wie de beste wiet en hash heeft van het land. Verder heel lekker eten, drinken, sapjes, toffe optredens in de Melkweg. Dus zorg dat je erbij bent, 26e editie van de Cannabis Cup.
Who would you rather your kids talk to about drugs? You? Or some guy?
I don't know. Is the guy Ethan Nadelman?
When your kids find out you've been lying to them about marijuana, who will they trust? Let's have a rational discussion about drug reform. Let's tax and regulate marijuana, restrict youth access, and create safer communities.
Welcome back, everybody. High Times Cannabis Cup starts this weekend. We're hoping to get Danny Danko for a pre-record. Tell us all about what's happening in Amsterdam. Yes, that last commercial was in Dutch. You can tell a little German influence in it. We also have the Spanish commercial and Danny Danko in Russian. That's my favorite one. I love listening to Danny speak Russian. I think that's cool. All right, 32 after here at Toker Talk Radio. We got Electric Bob on the line. How you doing, Bob?
Oh, sorry, I had my mic muted. I'm doing good, and I like the Tetris theme in Danko's promo.
I know. I brings back flashbacks.
Right? Yeah, I remember playing that on a Nintendo back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually just wanted to get back on topic with Arizona. You were asking me something if I knew anyone who ever got busted here.
Yeah.
I do. An old friend of mine. He was walking, and I guess he had like a gram on him or something.
Okay.
And the cops pulled him over, and he ended up having to do drug tests for it. But then one night he got drunk, and like he said he ate a stem. Next day he pissed dirty, and they put him on unsupervised probation, meaning he didn't have to do any DT. He just had to pay fines.
So he got out of felony charges. Is he still did he get a felony conviction?
No, it was a misdemeanor. What? He just paid off his fines and it was dropped, I think.
Huh. I wonder if they reduced it down to, like they dropped the pot charge and kept the paraphernalia charge or something like that.
I don't know all the in and outs of it. I just know that he was put on drug testing, pissed dirty, and then the next day he thought he was going to go to jail, and they just sent him a letter saying, oh, no, you're just going to be put on unsupervised probation, pay your fines.
Yeah. Well, when we look up these laws and they say that, you can get 10 to, it's a felony with, whatever, with whatever punishment, that's the extreme case.
Yeah, that's because in the law it says that up to 2 pounds is a felony.
Mm-hmm.
So if you usually just have personal weight, most of the time if it's because there are some cool cops here, since it's a Republican state and most cops are all about states' rights and personal rights.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So all in all, for it being so illegal here, it doesn't really seem like it. Because like I said, there's smoke shops everywhere. I can go 5 minutes, buy a bong, get a pipe, get a vaporizer. I can walk 5 more minutes, get another one. There's smoke shops everywhere. There's trails they advertise on TV, the big smoke shop around here. You can find the ads in the New Times. There's the pot dock ads in the New Times.
Sure.
Because all you really need here is the money to get a card. If you have $300, you just go, "Oh, my back hurts," and that's that.
Yeah.
They'll write you a prescription for persistent back pain.
Right.
Yeah.
So they don't have a medical records requirement there?
No, they do, but it's within 12 months. So say you got one yesterday, that's within 12 months.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So if it's all about money here. If you have the money, just pay your fines and that's that. Because most of the time, say if you can't pay your fines, they'll put you on. They have a diversion program, or they'll just put you on drug testing, and you just have to pay for that.
Got it.
So it's all about making money here, and like to be honest, like I don't mean to be racist, but as long as you're not Mexican here, you're pretty well off.
No, you're just making an observation of how racist the enforcement is. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sheriff Joe, in my old neighborhood, I remember waking up one day, going outside and seeing the big SWAT van arresting the people across the street, which were cool people. They invited me over to drink and have Mexican food. Like they grilled a bunch of chicken, and I'm like, "What are you doing arresting these people? They didn't harm me. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were cool to me. They fed me. They gave me food and were like cool with me, even though there was the language barrier. They're just like, come over, eat with us."
Yeah.
So like all in all, they're the traditional ones from Mexico are really, really cool people. It's just the ones that you get that are coming over here to do bad things.
Yeah. Okay.
When they're coming over here to work, that's just fine.
Yeah, it's Arizona's a schizophrenic state where your governor thinks the feds are wrong on immigration but right on medical marijuana. She's all for states' rights until it's medical marijuana, and then exactly. Voters don't know what they're talking about there.
Well, there was a law that passed in '96, which I read up on the law, and it was a weird law. It was a tough on crime law, but there was something in it that said a doctor can prescribe a Schedule I drug, and that law was taken out.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. This whole state has a long history of marijuana.
And then the other weird thing with Arizona is having that statute that the medical marijuana law has a definition of marijuana in it that says it is the plant and flowers of the Cannabis moraceae, species. But then have a separate law that says cannabis is the resins and the extracts of the same damn plant. And the medical marijuana law only affected the flowers and not the extracts. And what the hell?
Yeah, I didn't even know about that till a few years ago. I read up on the law and I'm like, this makes no sense. It should be all the same.
Yeah. And well, this to me, I've been critical of MPP's drafting of the Arizona law in the first place. When it was first drafted and it had that 25-mile halo restriction, I said, well, that's going to be problematic because it's going to start with no dispensaries and everybody will have the right to home grow. And then for every dispensary that opens up, someone's losing their rights to home grow.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it was. Everyone who got a card at first, every card said cultivation, cultivation, cultivation. And then about a year and a half later, the dispensary popped up in Tempe, or not in Tempe, in Glendale. And that was basically all of Phoenix can't grow now since there's one dispensary in Glendale. That, like I've said before, they won't even let you sniff the plant before you get it. It's just like, here's our list, here's what you have, here's what we have, here's what you can buy, give us your money.
Yep. And so you're left with only 4% of the population of the state of Arizona lives farther than 25 miles from a dispensary. The Arizona Department of Public Health actually has a map with the little circle radiuses of where every dispensary is. And when you look at that map, the only place that you can grow your own pot as a patient in Arizona, there'd be cactus and tumbleweeds and Snoopy's brother Spike. It'd be the only thing that'd be out there.
When I went out to Colorado, we took this. We should have went through New Mexico, but we went through East Utah, and we went through Tuba City. There's nothing out there. It's a bunch of trailer parks and dirt and mountains. The scenery's nice. If you go into Utah, the red rocks are nice. Driving through Monument Valley's nice, but there's nothing out there. You have to drive to Flagstaff, which is almost an hour and a half away to get to do anything.
Yeah. And when they were trying to pass this law in Arizona, I actually had a chance to be at the I think it was the Patients Out of Time conference, but there was some chance I had to be in the room and ask a question of MPP's Andrew Myers, who was trying to get that law passed in Arizona. It's like, why are you going to go with this 25-mile halo rule? And this is what he said to me. Here it is. Here's the clip.
Our number one concern when we drafted that piece of legislation was patient access. And believe it or not, the 25-mile halo around dispensaries is in that vein. The reason being is that we want to make sure, because we are opting with a nonprofit dispensary model, we believe that dispensaries is the best avenue for patient access, that the average patient who has never cultivated marijuana in the past, doesn't have a relationship with a caregiver, gets a recommendation from their endocrinologist, would much rather go to a dispensary. So it became important for us to think about what is going to make these dispensaries viable. So what we decided to do is we went with a statewide cap on the number of dispensaries that's tied to, like you mentioned, the number of pharmacies we have licensed in our state. We said that for every 10 pharmacies that are licensed, we will have one dispensary, which comes out to about 120 dispensaries currently in Arizona. The 25-mile halo around the dispensaries was, again, to give a market to the dispensaries in the community so they would be viable, so they're available for patients.
25-mile halo was made to give a market to the dispensaries so they would be viable. Because, you know, when you open up a pot shop, it sure is tough to run that business. Sure is hard to get customers when you're selling weed, huh?
Yeah, it sounds like a whole bunch of bullshit to me.
Yeah, 25-mile halo. So I had already been critical of MPP's drafting that law. Now I'm even more critical because you didn't read through all of the drug statutes in Arizona to realize that your initiative would only affect the definition of marijuana and not the definition of cannabis. You didn't write a statute in such a way that your definition of marijuana superseded and replaced any other definitions of marijuana. That's just sloppy drafting.
Yeah, it's like they didn't even read it. They're just like, oh, let's just get medical in Arizona so we can have something, so we can say that we got it. It's more of like to show than to actually do anything.
Well, and there's that argument as well. Now, they will say that, well, gee, you know, it was going to be tough to get it. It was going to be tough to get it. And without all of these things, we had to add these little compromises or we wouldn't have gotten the vote. Well, the vote was 50.13%. It was the closest medical marijuana vote that any states had. And this is a state that in the 90s had two different medical marijuana laws that passed in the the mid 60% range, right? Yeah. Now they were invalid because they had the word prescription in them, right? And they could never work, right? But the people, when given the shot of these wide open medical marijuana laws, by like 60% majorities were supporting them twice. And then they thought they had to chip that away to make a more restrictive law. Now maybe that's in respect to, 10 years of California abuses right next door. I don't know, but I don't know.
It could be, but yeah, because like you said, Arizona's had the chance 2 times to have the California model or the California model with a few more restrictions. Because it's just the way the program's set up here is you need $300 regardless to even get a card. And then when you go to get a card, you're not covered under if you don't like smoking flower and you like smoking oil, since it does it faster and it does it quicker and you don't need to smoke as much, you're going to be screwed. Even though I could go into any dispensary or any patient club and buy BHO edibles and all that.
Now I imagine, but the BHO you're getting there is felonious. Like they can't legally have that, right?
I don't know. Ever since they've been cracking down on it, it's like you have to know the place to find it.
Right.
Type of thing.
And that's the other aspect of it too, is that they set up a dispensary system that it is so lacking in customer service and what, patients really need, that this quasi-legal, patient clubs spring up next to them. And that further makes it difficult as you try to pass laws around the country. It's hard to make the argument that the laws aren't liberal enough, but that's really what the problem is. The laws aren't liberal enough. The problems you're seeing is because we haven't legalized enough.
Yeah, because some of these patient clubs, say you have a friend with a card, they'll let you in because under the law, say if you're like crippled or something and you need someone's assistance to move,
sure,
you can bring your card and have someone else with you.
Right.
That doesn't have a card. So those people bringing their friends in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's ruining it for everyone else.
Right. Well, I'm not at all against this social sharing of marijuana among healthy people. It's just I call that legalization.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all.
I'm not wrong with it. I don't care either. I'm just saying, say that got on the news or something.
Right.
You know how the media tries to spin everything.
Right, exactly. All right, well, I'm going to take a little break here, and when we come back, I hope we get MediGrow Vermont on the line, who's got some breaking news of what's going on with dispensaries in the other corner of America, up there in Vermont. So, hey, Electric Bob, thanks for the tune today. It made me bob my head. I liked it very much.
Cool. I'll talk to you later, Russ.
See ya.
You cut people, you smoke trees till you get what you need now. Designer drugs and minted smokes to get through the day. You always get them so high.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit marijuanaissafer.com. 420radio.org presents Marijuana Compassion and Common Sense with registered nurse Lanny Swerdlow every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, with replays Wednesday at 7 a.m., Thursday at midnight, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on 420radio.org.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
Welcome back, everybody. That's music from Astra. The song is called Quake Meat. I don't know what that means. I'm sure there's a double entendre there somewhere. Quake Meat. Just got some news across the old Twitter sphere. The American Medical Association, in its meeting today, apparently, has come out against the legalization of marijuana. Shocking, I know, that doctors are opposing the legalization of something that would make it so we need to see them less. That's shocking. Real shocking that the American Medical Association, that, you know, relies on so much interaction with big pharma, wouldn't approve of the legalization of something that would cause you to need less of big pharma. That's stunning. But anyway, the delegates at their 2013 interim meeting of the American Medical Association passed a resolution today that says, in part, quote, our AMA believes that cannabis is a dangerous drug and as such is a public health concern, and that sale and possession of cannabis should not be legalized. Explicitly rejecting marijuana legalization. So once again, the American Medical Association finds itself on the wrong side of history, science, logic, and reason, as well as public opinion. Cannabis is a dangerous drug. I wonder what the American Medical Association thinks of Zohydro, the new 10 times as potent as Vicodin, not cut with acetaminophen or ibuprofen, not cut with agents to prevent it from being crushed, snorted, boiled, and injected. Well, that's not a dangerous drug because it's obviously it's Schedule 2, so it's medical and people can use it safely under a doctor's supervision. Unlike cannabis, of course, which, you know, this wild herb growing freely that has never killed anyone in thousands of years of use. Why, that's too dangerous. All right, got to go to the phone lines here. We have got MediGrow Vermont on the line. Fran, how you doing?
Good, Russ. How are you tonight?
Fantastic.
Howdy from the Green Mountain State.
Glad to hear you from the Green Mountain State. That's another great line. The Green Mountain State. North Dakota is the Peace Garden State. We need some peace gardens in North Dakota. Anyway, what's happening up in Vermont?
Well, I'm not sure if we should shout this out or whisper about it. The Stanley brothers are going to be at the University of Vermont tomorrow, Wednesday the 20th, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Davis Auditorium. There's an event scheduled in association with Dr. Greg Holmes of the Department of Pediatric Neurology at UVM/FAHC. The interesting thing about this, of course, this is about children. What about the children? And it's about high CBD for children with epilepsy. Now, you'd think this was going to be a story that we'd see come out in the news and, you know, get discussed a bit. And all we got this morning, and this is the first I've heard of it, was a brief, bare-bones report that gave an incorrect date on Channel 22 out of northern Vermont.
Wow.
And after some inquiries made by some individuals associated with UVM, even on the inside, they could not get details on this program. My contacts in other parts of the advocacy universe here in Vermont have told me there's going to be 100 people that were invited to this. But actually, the information given out on the TV station made it look like it was public when it's actually being subdued or basically hidden from even the scheduling people can't tell you when it's scheduled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trying to keep the
So
information
what about
down
the children? Here we've got epilepsy for children. We've got a high CBD, low THC variety. We've got the Stanley brothers coming, and that was not even reported in the news.
Yeah, and the Stanley brothers, of course, are the brothers in the Sanjay Gupta weed documentary who are growing the Charlotte's Web strain.
Exactly. This is about the Charlotte's Web strain, exactly.
And, you know, I read another report on those guys talking about how they can't keep up and how there's all these now, this influx of people coming to Colorado, these parents with kids with epilepsy who are selling everything and moving to Colorado so they can get this CBD oil for their kids. I'm not too worried about the CBD oil. I think it's going to get widespread acceptance over the next year or two because they keep hammering away on, well, it doesn't get you high. It doesn't get you high. There's no THC in it. It doesn't get you high. And those of us who like to get high are still stuck out here trying to fight for the right to get high as more and more of the medical patients get cleaved away from us. You know, oh, well, now the epileptics have their high CBD oil. Oh, now the multiple sclerosis patients have their Sativex. Oh, you know, this is exactly what I'd predicted.
Well, you know, Russ, I agree with you. I am, of course, a medical patient, but I see no reason that we can't legalize. I think we have to.
Oh, yeah. And by no means am I saying, you know, let's not get the CBD oil to the kids. Absolutely. I'm just saying that's a fight that's a different fight.
Well, my concern today is why hide such a great event at UVM?
Oh, well, that you know, the media on this issue, you're absolutely right. Let's get back to that point, that the media not bringing this up and not covering it the way it should be, especially in a state that's got a medical program, this should be of interest to the states, you know, the people of the state. Yeah, they should be giving a little bit more coverage, I'd think.
There was absolutely no PR on it. Matter of fact, when inquiries were made on the inside, no information was available, and I just find that amazing.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. All right, well, we'll keep our eyes open on that, and then let us know how it turns out, and we'll report back on that too.
Yeah, well, I won't be able to get up there tomorrow. I do have somebody possibly going, and if we get information on that, we'll get it back to you.
All right, that sounds great. Thanks for
having me, Russ.
Yeah, and reading some of the chat room, I know someone whose mom from Charlotte's Web but had a falling out with the guys who've gone public, yada, yada, yada. You know, this is, you know, the medical marijuana fight was very interesting to me in the 90s and the 2000s. But now I think medical marijuana, and you know what? For the longest time, the medical marijuana people kept saying, well, this is a different fight. Medical's different than recreational. All right, well, it's different. Now you can have your medical. Have your medical and fight for your medical. If they're different, if they're really that different, then maybe I should just be fighting for my folks that want to get high. See, I mean, this is the thing. My position that everybody should be able to use pot includes sick people. Their position that we need to carve out exceptions for people that have certain conditions excludes people. That's all. And they've been saying for years, you know, we're patients, not criminals. We're patients, not criminals. Well, then I guess I'm stuck here to fight for the criminals then. And I wouldn't have gotten this. I don't think I would have gotten to this place if not for the experiences of Prop 19 and the experience of I-502. When after all this 10, 12, 15 years of supporting medical this, medical that, voting for medical this, medical that, sitting in the back of the bus, accepting our criminality, while friends of ours, and a lot of friends of ours who we knew that didn't particularly have medical conditions, were availing themselves of the program as well, like myself. Well, for a lot of people that just get high, all that's succeeded in doing is created more animus toward people who get high. This is the problem, that we end up having gone through the medical route to get to legalization. Because the medical route has said for years and years and years, we're patients, not criminals, we're patients, not criminals, which just reinforces the idea that someone who's not sick is doing something wrong. What we need to be hammering away at, and if I had the time machine to go back to some of those meetings in the early 90s as some of these strategies were being discussed, I would point out that the argument needs to be prohibiting vices creates crime. Regulating vices creates revenue. Simple as that. Prohibiting vices creates crime. Regulating vices creates revenue. Because there's another trap we're falling into as the cannabis community here, and this is something I was awakened to when I was at that Drug Policy Alliance conference, something that Ethan Nadelman spoke to. It's all well and good to say taxing marijuana will raise this much money, and it's all well and good to say marijuana is safer than alcohol. What do you do when it comes time to end the prohibition on heroin or on cocaine? You can't make the argument that heroin is safer than alcohol. You can't make the argument that taxing heroin is going to raise a whole lot of money. But it too should still be legalized, or at least to the point where people who have a want for heroin or an addiction to heroin don't get locked up merely for their personal use, and that people that want to access it have a safe way to access it and not have to deal with a criminal market. I think that should apply to every drug. But have we painted ourselves into a corner where the measure of whether or not a drug should be legal is how it compares to alcohol? Is the measure of whether or not we legalize a drug whether or not we can make a buck off of it? These are the kind of things I'm thinking about 24 hours a day. I mean, when I'm sleeping, I'm having dreams about this stuff. Well, that sound means we're just about out of time here for Toker Talk Radio, but I hope one thing that you get from the show is that I'm not going to put up with bullshit. Now, for years, I've called out the bullshit on the prohibition side. Lately, though, I've felt the need to call out some bullshit on our side, too, because I think we've got the majority, and we risk losing the majority if they think we're bullshitting them. So strap in, put on your big boy pants, because this is going to be a bumpy ride over the rest of 2013, I have a feeling. But I appreciate your support. Thanks for sticking with us. Coming up next, we got Weed Nerd with Subcool, and then at 8 o'clock, a live new edition of Thrasher Sports with me and Herb Thrasher. For everyone here at 420radio.org, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you